Hey, good news! Ecuador lifts all restrictions. Pack your bags. All right, it's time to dust off the luggage. Wow, it has gathered some dust. We haven't traveled at all. You need the broom to get it all off of there. It's very, very dusty in Baja. So before we get into this, some people have mentioned that they like the way I put things in perspective. So I'm going to do a little bit of perspectivizing, putting things in perspective, because I'm seeing it's just that the human nature, you know, they've got us on the human nature part of our psychology as people. I mean, they've got us wrapped around their little finger. I mean, it's like the first reaction you see is people saying, good news. And we love it. We love good news. And good news makes us feel good. And, you know, when we get bad news, we feel bad. When we get good news, we feel better. And the ones pulling the strings to our mental psychology, they're 2 steps ahead of us. They know what they're doing to us. They're making us feel good for a while so they can make us feel like everything is good again. I'm going to show you in a second what I mean. So the date on that the news broke out was, I think it was October 19th and or 18th or 19th, and then they said that as of October 20th, all of those restrictions that were there previously were going to be lifted on October 20th. And let me show you something else. I've found this report here that came out. Remember, this is October. This came out in the spring, back in the spring, February, March, April. There is a report of where you could travel where restrictions were removed. And remember, this is back in the spring, so it was like 6 to 8 months ago. So I'm showing you here that Ecuador is not a trendsetter. It's not in the initial batch of countries that you could already travel to without these restrictions, where the restrictions were already coming down. And I'll show you. I won't go through every single one of these, but there are so many of them. Remember, this is from back in the spring, where you can travel now, back in April, without a jab or test. And there's a whole list of them, and it comes down to the total, which is 114 by number, which is literally more than half the globe. So in more than half the globe, and this is alphabetical, I'm going to show you, that we can look for Ecuador, A, B, C, D, E, Dominican Republic, Egypt, El Salvador, Estonia. Ecuador is not on it. Ecuador is not a trendsetter. Ecuador is a latecomer. Not only is Ecuador a latecomer, but listen to this. And for the observant of you in the bunch, is there something you notice, another country that is conspicuously absent from here besides Ecuador? A, B, hint, hint, A, B, C, 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 China. I just chuckle when I see people saying things like, oh, they'll read a piece of bad news in the country they're from, and then they'll say, well, that's why I'm in Ecuador, you know, because they're not doing that here. And and it just brings back the memory of last August in 2021, when the same people quoted in this article were telling us that we weren't going to be able to leave our houses. I think a lot of people that are just now getting there, or maybe weren't paying too much attention, don't realize that it was just last August when they were saying that no one was going to be able to leave their houses without proof of all this stuff. And the people that were saying those things last August are still there. And the people that are now coming out in the news saying, oh, everything is looking great. Not only are they latecomers to the party, they're talking out of both sides of their mouth. Here it is. It's not me, it's them. Look. This is the El Comercio article, Ecuador less restrictions due to COVID-19. And right there we have it from October 20th. No longer necessary to present the card and the tests. But he pointed out, in the event that there's a alert in other countries, just an alert in other countries. So you see they're talking out of both sides of their mouth. Now, is the whole point of this video is, can this information be trusted when you're being told that in the event there's another alert in other countries? Doesn't even have to be there in Ecuador. Then they must requesting the relevance of requesting the requirements once again. And let me show you. This is just today, October 21st. Couldn't have timed it any quicker. A new stealthy COVID variant is spreading fast, Yahoo News, spooking scientists and Wall Street. And this is supposedly coming out over there, spreading quickly in Singapore, which completely nullifies the entire narrative that Ecuador is finally open, because they can just shut it right back down at any time, because that's what they said that they would be considering doing. This kind of stuff is just, to me, it's just, you have to be very, very careful who you're talking to, who you're listening to, because as I said in my other videos, there's a lot of hopefuls out there. There's a lot of psychology going on. They've got us on the psychology. They know we want things to be normal. They know that we want to feel good. But is it trustworthy when they talk out of both sides of their mouth and they tell you, well, we can just do this again in any place in the globe, you know, we can just go ahead and do this again. Is that trustworthy? Is that something you can bank on? Is that something you can rely on? You know, and nothing has happened to these people. They're still there. They're all still getting their salaries. They're still getting paid, and they get to pull these strings and mess around with everybody and tell people where they can go and when they can't go and what they can do and what they can't do, regardless of what the law actually states. The good people in the legal system of Ecuador have come out in their Supreme Court and stated that all of these have been unconstitutional all along. And yet these other people, because you have different factions within government, you have good government, you have bad government, you have good people in government, you have bad people in government. So the bad people are still pulling all these strings, and I'm just sitting here looking at the articles and looking at exactly what's happening. It is in the news. It is reported facts the way they are reported. The things are written down. It's all there. I didn't make any of it up. You can do research yourself. You can, clearly reach your own conclusions, and I'm just helping you do that with this video. So I don't bring you this information to discourage you from doing your calling. If your calling is to be in Ecuador, then be in Ecuador, But I think that a lot of people are just motivated by a whim. I think that they're motivated by a narrative that is pre-2020. And the pre-2020 and post-2020, a lot of people are waking up. I mean, yeah, we've got family in Ecuador, and yeah, we want to be able to travel and see our family. We want to be able to do it just like anybody else. A lot of people have been saying all along, well, I'm waiting around to see what happens. I just wanted to present the clear picture of what the real actual picture is. And I'm not telling people don't go to Ecuador. I'm just saying that, as I've always said, whatever decisions you make sure you make them with both eyes wide open. Because if it's your calling to be in Ecuador, then be in Ecuador. But if you're just going to Ecuador on a whim because of all the wonderful things you've heard, well, I think it's time and important to see the complete picture on all of those things that you've heard and include all of these other things that we just talked about today. So I hope you got something out of that. Thanks for coming to our video. Have a wonderful day.